Morning arrives quietly. There is no gentle alarm clock, no smell of fresh coffee filling a spacious kitchen. The day begins with a thin beam of sunlight slipping through the cracks of an aging wall, slowly touching the cold floor of a small room that has witnessed far too many days of silent endurance. In places like this, mornings do not begin with ambitious plans. They begin with a single question that repeats itself every day. How will today be survived? Being poor is rarely dramatic in the way people imagine. There's no sad music playing in the background. No slow-motion moments where the world pauses to observe the struggle. Life continues as usual, almost indifferently. Cars pass, people rush to work, doors open, shops welcome customers. And somewhere within the quiet corners of the same world, there are lives that move at a different rhythm. Slower, heavier, carrying invisible weight. Poverty is not only the absence of money. It is the feeling of walking through the same world as everyone else, yet experiencing it from an entirely different distance. The same sun rises every morning. The same wind moves through the streets. The same sky stretches endlessly above every city and village. But the experience of living beneath that sky can be completely different. Some people walk through life as if the road beneath them is smooth and carefully paved. Every step seems natural, expected, almost effortless. Others walk as if they are pushing a heavy stone uphill. Every step requires strength. Every step demands patience. And yet, the world rarely notices the effort. Morning slowly becomes noon. The city grows louder. Engines hum. Conversations overlap. Footsteps echo across crowded sidewalks. People carry briefcases, scroll through their phones, discuss meetings, complain about schedules, and plan their next vacations. Meanwhile, somewhere within that same moving crowd, there are thoughts that sound very different. Not about vacations, not about promotions, not about dreams that stretch years into the future, but about something far simpler. Will there be enough food today? For many people, that question sounds almost unimaginable. It belongs to another time, another world, another story that seems distant and unfamiliar. But for some lives, that question is not unusual at all. It is ordinary. It is daily. It is real. And when survival becomes the center of life, many other dreams quietly step aside. Education, ambitions, personal goals, even simple comforts begin to feel like luxuries that belong to someone else's story. The afternoon sun slowly drifts across the sky. Heat settles on rooftops and pavement. The rhythm of the city continues without pause. And still, the quiet struggle continues too. Poverty teaches lessons that no school ever writes in textbooks. It teaches patience in the face of uncertainty. It teaches humility in a world that often values appearances more than effort. And most of all, it teaches endurance. The ability to keep walking forward even when the destination remains unclear. Evening arrives with long shadows stretching across the streets. The sky changes color, blending gold, orange, and fading blue as the day prepares to close its doors. Many people return home feeling tired from work. But there is a particular kind of exhaustion that belongs to those who spend the entire day negotiating with reality. Not negotiating contracts, not negotiating deals, but negotiating survival. Negotiating with time. Negotiating with hunger. Negotiating with hope. Hope can be a fragile thing in a life surrounded by limitations. Sometimes it appears as a tiny light somewhere far away, too small to clearly see, yet still bright enough to prevent complete darkness. Night eventually falls. Lights from buildings begin to glow against the dark sky. The sounds of the city soften. Traffic becomes thinner. Conversations fade into the background. For many, nighttime is a moment of rest. But for others, night is when thoughts become loud. When silence opens space for questions that have been quietly waiting all day. Why does life feel so uneven? Why do some roads appear smooth from the very beginning, while others seem filled with obstacles at every step. There are no easy answers. The world rarely pauses to explain itself. Yet even within this quiet struggle, something powerful continues to exist: resilience. The quiet strength that refuses to disappear. The strength that wakes up every morning, even when yesterday was difficult. The strength that continues walking even when the road feels endless. Because poverty may take many things away: comfort, security, opportunities. But there is one thing it cannot easily destroy: the human ability to endure. And sometimes, hidden within the hardest lives, that endurance becomes a form of quiet greatness that the world rarely stops long enough to recognize. Night has a strange way of revealing truths that the daylight often hides. When the noise of the world begins to fade, when the rushing footsteps disappear from the streets, and when the bright lights of busy buildings slowly turn off one by one, silence arrives. And in that silence, thoughts begin to speak. During the day, it is easy for the world to pretend that everything is normal. People move quickly, conversations fill the air, and distractions appear everywhere. But at night, when the world slows down, reality feels closer. For those who live comfortably, night may simply be a time for rest. But for those who carry the weight of poverty, night can feel like a mirror. A mirror that quietly reflects every worry that was pushed aside during the day. The quiet room becomes a place where questions gather. Questions that have no simple answers. What will tomorrow look like? Will life always remain this difficult? Will there ever be a moment when breathing feels lighter? Outside, the wind moves softly through the darkness. Street lamps glow faintly along empty roads, illuminating small pieces of the sleeping city. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once and then falls silent again. Life continues. But inside the mind, the journey is different. Memories begin to surface. Not always the beautiful ones. Sometimes the memories that return are the heavy ones. The moments when reality made its presence painfully clear. Moments when effort was not enough. Moments when hope felt fragile. Moments when it seemed as if the world had quietly decided that some lives would simply remain harder than others. Poverty often teaches people to hide their struggles. During the day, strength must be shown. A calm face, a steady voice, a quiet determination. Because the world rarely welcomes visible weakness. But in the darkness of night, honesty becomes unavoidable. There are nights when exhaustion is not only physical. The body may be tired, yes, but the deeper fatigue lives in the heart and the mind. The kind of tiredness that grows slowly after many days, many months, sometimes many years of constant effort without clear reward. And yet, something still refuses to disappear. Hope. Not the loud, confident hope that appears in motivational speeches or success stories, but a quieter version. A fragile, persistent belief that maybe, somehow, life can still change. It may not arrive tomorrow. It may not arrive next year. But the possibility exists somewhere beyond the horizon. Poverty often forces people to grow stronger in ways that the world rarely recognizes. While others learn how to build careers, manage investments, or expand opportunities, those living in hardship learn something far more fundamental. They learn how to survive uncertainty. They learn how to keep moving forward even when there is no guarantee of improvement. They learn how to rebuild courage every single morning. Morning after morning, day after day. This quiet strength rarely appears in headlines. It rarely becomes a famous story. But it exists everywhere. In small houses, in crowded neighborhoods, in forgotten corners of cities, in places where life demands patience far beyond what most people ever experience. The night grows deeper. Stars appear above the dark sky, distant and silent. And somewhere beneath that same sky, a simple realization slowly forms. Perhaps life was never meant to be fair. Perhaps the road will remain difficult for longer than expected. But difficulty does not erase dignity. Struggle does not erase worth. And hardship does not erase the quiet value of a life that continues to endure. Because surviving another day, even when the world does not notice, is already a form of courage. A silent courage. A courage that wakes up again tomorrow and walks forward. Even when the road ahead remains uncertain, morning returns again. Just like yesterday. Just like the day before. The sun rises without asking who struggled through the night and who slept peacefully. Light spreads across the sky with the same calm certainty, touching rooftops, streets, and windows without discrimination. But the experience of waking up beneath that same sun can be completely different. For some, morning is the beginning of opportunity. For others, it is simply the continuation of survival. The body rises slowly, not because the day promises something exciting, but because staying down is not an option. Life does not pause just because someone feels tired. Hunger does not wait politely. Bills do not delay themselves out of sympathy. So the day begins again. There is something deeply exhausting about a life where every day feels like a test of endurance. Not a short test that ends within hours, but a long one that stretches across years. Years of careful choices. Years of small sacrifices. Years of quiet acceptance. Poverty carries a weight that is difficult to describe to those who have never felt it. It is not only the weight of empty pockets. It is the constant awareness of limitation. The knowledge that every decision must be calculated carefully. Every purchase considered twice. Every small comfort questioned. Even simple pleasures can feel like luxuries. A warm meal at the right time. A moment of rest without worry. A day without thinking about money. These are things many people experience without even noticing. But for someone living within the narrow space of poverty, these moments feel rare, almost precious. The world outside continues to move quickly. People talk about investments, opportunities, promotions, vacations, new homes, better cars. Conversations filled with plans. Plans that stretch months, sometimes years into the future. But when life revolves around survival, the future becomes a much smaller concept. Sometimes the future means tomorrow. Sometimes the future means the end of the week. And sometimes, simply reaching the end of the day without disaster already feels like an achievement. There is also a strange loneliness inside poverty. Not because people are physically alone, but because their experiences often remain unseen. Many struggles happen quietly, behind closed doors, inside tired minds, within hearts that have learned not to complain too loudly, because complaining does not change reality. And explaining hardship to people who cannot understand it often leads to silence rather than solutions. So the struggle becomes private, invisible, quiet, yet incredibly real. The afternoon sun grows hotter. Shadows shrink. The city continues its restless movement. Somewhere laughter rises from a cafe. Somewhere else someone celebrates success. And in another corner of the same world, someone continues walking with heavy thoughts and patient determination. Life like this slowly changes a person. It teaches awareness. It teaches observation. It teaches the ability to read the small signals of the world. A slight change in opportunity, a small chance that might open a door. A moment when courage must appear, even though fear remains close. Because those who live close to hardship develop a unique skill. They learn how to survive narrow spaces. Spaces where mistakes cannot be afforded. Spaces where hope must be protected carefully, even when it feels fragile. Even when it feels uncertain. Even when the world seems indifferent. Evening slowly returns once more. The sky softens. The light fades. And another day prepares to close. But before the darkness settles fully, one quiet realization appears again. Despite everything. Despite the struggle. Despite the limitations. Despite the long road that still lies ahead. the story has not ended. Not yet. Because as long as someone continues walking, even slowly, the possibility of change still exists somewhere in the distance. And sometimes, the most powerful stories are not about those who rise quickly. They are about those who refuse to stop moving forward. There are battles in this world that make noise, battles with shouting voices, battles that fill the streets with anger, battles that appear in headlines and news reports. But the hardest battles are often the quiet ones, the battles that happen inside a person's mind, the battles that nobody sees. Poverty is filled with these silent wars. Every day begins with decisions that seem small to the outside world, but feel enormous to the one living them. Should this money be saved or used today? Should the body rest or continue working even when it is exhausted? Should hope remain alive, or should expectations be lowered to avoid disappointment? These questions repeat themselves again and again, day after day, month after month, year after year. And slowly, something changes inside a person who lives too long under this pressure. Strength grows, but it is not the kind of strength that people celebrate. It is a quiet strength. A strength that learns to hide pain behind calm expressions. A strength that learns to smile even when the heart feels heavy. Because sometimes, showing pain only invites more judgment. The world can be surprisingly impatient with the struggles of the poor. People often believe that hardship must always have a simple explanation. They should work harder. They should try something different. They should make better choices. These words are easy to say. They travel quickly through conversations and opinions. But life inside poverty is rarely that simple. Sometimes people are already working harder than anyone can see. Sometimes they are trying every possibility available to them. Sometimes the choices are limited long before the decision is even made. And yet, the world continues moving forward without pausing to understand. That is one of the most painful truths about poverty. Not just the lack of resources, but the lack of understanding. Afternoon slowly becomes evening once again. The sky darkens gently as the sun disappears beyond the horizon. Streetlights begin to glow. The rhythm of the city softens. People return home, close their doors, sit down to eat, and prepare for rest. But rest is not always easy for those whose minds remain busy with survival. Because even when the body is still, the thoughts continue working, calculating, planning, worrying, hoping. A quiet mind becomes a rare luxury. And yet, even inside this endless cycle of struggle, something remarkable continues to exist. Human resilience, the ability to keep going, not because the road is easy, not because the future is guaranteed, but because stopping would mean surrendering to the darkness. And somewhere deep inside every struggling life, there remains a small, stubborn voice that refuses to give up. A voice that whispers softly in the background of every difficult day. Keep going, even if the progress is slow, even if the world does not notice, even if the victory is nothing more than surviving another day. Because survival itself can be an act of courage, a quiet form of bravery that rarely receives applause. But it matters. It matters more than people realize. Night grows deeper now. The city becomes quiet again. And beneath the vast darkness of the sky, countless unseen struggles continue their silent battles. Battles fought with patience. Battles fought with endurance. Battles fought with a determination that refuses to disappear. And though the world may never fully understand these battles, they are real, they are powerful, and they are still being fought. Right now, there are moments in life when hope feels close. Moments when the future seems wide and open, when possibilities appear everywhere, when every step forward feels like progress. But there are also moments when hope feels very far away, so far that it almost disappears beyond the horizon. For many who live in poverty, this feeling is not rare. It visits quietly, usually during the most ordinary days, not during dramatic tragedies, not during obvious disasters, but during the slow repetition of everyday life. Morning comes, work begins, effort is given, the day ends, and yet nothing seems to change. Day after day, week after week, sometimes even year after year. It is in these long stretches of time that hope becomes fragile, not because people stop believing completely, but because believing begins to feel exhausting. The world often celebrates big success stories. Stories about people who rise quickly. Stories about individuals who transform their lives overnight. Stories filled with dramatic moments and powerful victories. But real life, especially the life of someone struggling with poverty, rarely follows those dramatic paths. Change often moves slowly. So slowly that it can become almost invisible. Imagine walking along a road where every step forward feels small. So small that it seems like you are barely moving at all. But stopping is not an option, because behind you is the same hardship that pushed you forward in the first place. So the journey continues, quietly, patiently, without applause. There is another hidden difficulty inside poverty: comparison. The world today makes comparison unavoidable. Images of success appear everywhere. People share their achievements, their travels, their victories, their happiness. And those images travel across screens into the lives of people whose reality looks very different. The contrast can feel sharp, painfully sharp. It can create the illusion that everyone else is moving forward while some remain standing still. But life is rarely that simple. Every life carries unseen struggles. Every person walks through private battles that never appear in public stories. Still, when someone is already carrying the weight of poverty, these comparisons can deepen the feeling of distance from the world, distance from comfort, distance from opportunity, distance from stability. And yet, despite all of this, something continues to exist. A quiet determination, not loud, not dramatic, but steady. The kind of determination that wakes up early even after a difficult night. The kind that tries again even after failure. The kind that whispers a simple message inside the mind. Maybe tomorrow will be different. It is not blind optimism. It is not unrealistic dreaming. It is simply the refusal to completely surrender. And that refusal, though small, can be powerful. Because history has shown something important about human beings. People are capable of enduring far more than they ever expected. They can survive long periods of difficulty. They can adapt to harsh environments. They can continue walking even when the road feels endless. Evening arrives again. The sky softens into fading colors. The city lights slowly awaken. And another day quietly moves toward its end. But something important has happened. Another day has been survived. Another day has been endured. Another day has been faced with courage that no one else may have noticed. And sometimes, surviving one more day is already a quiet victory. Another morning arrives. The sky slowly brightens, just as it always does. A world wakes up again, stretching itself into another day filled with movement, ambition, and endless activity. But for some lives, morning does not feel like a new beginning. It feels like the continuation of a very long road. A road that has been walked for years. A road that does not always reveal where it leads. Poverty often feels like traveling without a clear map. The direction is uncertain. The distance is unknown. And sometimes the traveler begins to wonder if the road will ever become easier. Still, the journey continues. Not because it is exciting, not because it promises immediate reward, but because stopping would mean surrendering to circumstances that refuse to show mercy. There is a quiet discipline inside the life of someone who survives hardship. It is not the discipline of structured routines or carefully planned schedules. It is the discipline of endurance, the discipline of waking up again even when yesterday was difficult, the discipline of trying again even when the previous attempt failed, the discipline of carrying hope carefully, like a fragile object that must not break. Many people underestimate how exhausting this kind of life can be. It is not only the body that becomes tired, the mind becomes tired too. Tired of calculating every expense, tired of worrying about unexpected problems, tired of imagining what might go wrong tomorrow. But somehow, the human spirit adapts. It learns to survive inside narrow spaces. It learns to breathe even when the air feels heavy. It learns to find small reasons to keep going. A cool breeze in the morning, a brief moment of laughter, a kind word from someone who understands. These moments may appear insignificant to the outside world, but within the life of someone facing constant struggle, these small moments can feel like rare treasures, because they remind the heart that life still contains beauty, even in the middle of difficulty. Afternoon passes slowly. The sun travels across the sky as time moves forward with quiet certainty. The world outside remains busy, full of plans, ambitions, and conversations about progress. Yet inside the quiet struggle of poverty, time feels different. Progress is measured in survival, measured in persistence, measured in the simple fact that another day has been faced without surrender. Evening approaches once more. The light softens. The sky dims. The city prepares to rest. But before the night fully arrives, there is a moment of reflection. A moment when the mind looks back at the road that has already been traveled. And sometimes, a surprising realization appears. Despite everything, despite the difficulty, despite the slow pace of change, despite the countless obstacles along the way, the journey is still continuing. The road has not defeated the traveler. The traveler is still walking, still breathing, still searching for a future that may not yet be visible. And sometimes, that realization creates a quiet strength, a strength that does not shout, a strength that simply whispers, "Keep moving," because even the longest road in the world is eventually shaped by countless small steps, and every step forward, no matter how small, carries the possibility of a different tomorrow. There is something the world often misunderstands about poverty. People frequently believe that when someone loses money, opportunities, or comfort, they lose everything. But that is not entirely true. There is something that poverty cannot easily take away: dignity. It may be hidden, it may be quiet, but it remains. Dignity does not come from expensive clothing or large houses. It does not depend on bank accounts or titles. It lives somewhere deeper, inside the way a person continues to stand even when life becomes difficult. Every day, countless people wake up and walk into a world that does not always welcome them kindly. They walk into uncertainty. They walk into limitations. They walk into circumstances that were never chosen. And yet, they walk with dignity. They continue to try. They continue to work. They continue to endure. This quiet perseverance is rarely celebrated. The world often pays attention only to success. It applauds victories. It rewards achievements. But the act of simply refusing to give up rarely receives attention. And yet, that act may be one of the most powerful forms of courage. Consider the strength required to continue believing in life after years of struggle. Consider the patience required to keep trying when results appear slowly or not at all. Consider the emotional weight of living in a society that measures value by possessions. In such a world, Those without wealth can easily be made to feel invisible. But dignity has a strange way of surviving. It appears in the determination to remain honest. It appears in the refusal to harm others despite personal hardship. It appears in the quiet decision to keep going, even when circumstances offer very little encouragement. Afternoon sunlight spreads across the streets once again. Life moves forward with its familiar rhythm. People hurry toward meetings. Vehicles fill the roads. Conversations echo in cafes and offices. And somewhere in the middle of all this movement, someone continues walking through a much quieter journey. A journey of survival. A journey of patience. A journey of inner strength. It may not look impressive from the outside, but inside that journey, something important is being built. Character, resilience, wisdom born from hardship. Evening slowly arrives again, painting the sky with colors that fade into darkness. Another day has passed. Another chapter of effort has been written. And even though the world may not record these small victories, they exist. Every moment of endurance matters. Every decision to keep going matters. Because dignity is not defined by how easy life becomes. It is defined by how a person continues to stand when life becomes difficult. And sometimes, those who struggle the most quietly carry the strongest dignity of all. There are teachers in life that do not stand in classrooms. They do not write lessons on boards. They do not give certificates or recognition. Yet their lessons are among the most powerful a person can ever learn. Poverty is one of those teachers. It does not speak kindly. It does not offer gentle explanations. Instead, it teaches through experience, through long days, through quiet nights, through moments when life demands patience far beyond what anyone expected. One of the first lessons poverty teaches is the value of small things. In a world where comfort is common, many blessings become invisible. Clean water, a warm meal, a peaceful moment of rest, a safe place to sleep. These things are easily taken for granted by those who have always had them. But for someone who has experienced the absence of these comforts, their value becomes undeniable. A simple meal can feel like a celebration. A calm night without worry can feel like a luxury. A moment of kindness can stay in the memory for years. Another lesson poverty teaches is awareness. When resources are limited, attention becomes sharper. Small details matter. A small opportunity can change the direction of a day. A small mistake can create serious consequences. This awareness slowly shapes the way a person sees the world. They begin to notice things others overlook. They understand effort in a deeper way. They recognize the true meaning of persistence. Because persistence is not glamorous. It is not exciting. Most of the time, it is simply the decision to try again tomorrow, even when yesterday was difficult, even when the progress feels invisible, even when the reward has not yet appeared. The world often celebrates people who succeed, but poverty reveals something else. It reveals the quiet strength of those who continue trying long before success ever arrives. Afternoon sunlight stretches across the streets. Life continues moving forward, as it always does. People chase ambitions. Businesses grow. Cities expand. But within the quieter corners of society, different lessons continue to unfold. Lessons about humility, lessons about patience, lessons about understanding the true fragility of comfort. Because one of the most surprising realizations poverty brings is this: life can change very quickly. Security can disappear. Circumstances can shift. Fortunes can rise and fall. No life is permanently protected from uncertainty. And perhaps that realization creates something valuable: compassion. The ability to understand the struggles of others. The ability to recognize that behind every face exists a story that may not be visible at first glance. Evening approaches once again. The sky dims. The city lights slowly awaken, and somewhere in the quiet reflection of another completed day, a deeper understanding begins to grow. Poverty may take many things away: comfort, convenience, freedom from worry. But it can also reveal truths about life that comfort often hides. Truths about resilience, truths about dignity, truths about the quiet strength that lives inside ordinary people. And sometimes, the people who walk through the hardest roads learn the deepest lessons about what it truly means to live. There is a question that quietly lives inside many struggling lives. A question that appears during long days of effort. A question that returns during silent nights of reflection. Why keep going? Why continue walking when the road feels endless? Why keep trying when progress moves so slowly? For someone observing from the outside, the answer may seem simple. But inside the life of someone who has known hardship for many years, the answer is deeper. People keep walking because stopping is not truly an option. Life itself keeps moving. Time continues flowing forward. And even when circumstances feel heavy, something inside the human spirit refuses to remain still. It is a quiet instinct. The instinct to survive. The instinct to search for something better. The instinct to believe that somewhere ahead, even if far away, there might be a different tomorrow. Many people think courage always appears as bold action, as dramatic decisions, as loud declarations of strength. But real courage often looks very different. Sometimes courage is simply waking up in the morning. Sometimes courage is continuing to work even when exhaustion is overwhelming. Sometimes courage is refusing to allow disappointment to destroy hope completely. These small acts of persistence rarely receive attention. They do not appear in newspapers. They are not shared in stories of success, but they exist everywhere. In quiet neighborhoods, in crowded streets, in homes where life has never been easy. And these small acts of persistence slowly build something powerful: resilience. Resilience is not something people are born with. It is something that grows through experience, through difficulty, through the repeated decision to continue forward, even when the destination cannot yet be seen. Afternoon arrives again. The sun moves across the sky with calm certainty. Life outside continues its endless rhythm. People chase dreams. Opportunities appear and disappear. The world continues its complicated dance of success and struggle. Yet somewhere in the background of all this movement, another quieter journey continues. A journey that does not seek attention. A journey that does not expect applause. A journey defined simply by endurance. Evening slowly returns. The sky begins to dim. Lights awaken across buildings and streets. Another day approaches its ending. And as the darkness grows deeper, a quiet realization appears once again. Perhaps life will never become easy. Perhaps the road will always contain obstacles. Perhaps the journey will remain long. But even so, the traveler is still walking. And sometimes that is enough, because every step forward, no matter how small, is proof that hardship has not won. Every step forward is proof that the human spirit still refuses to surrender. And that quiet refusal may be one of the strongest forces in the world. Night settles once again over the world. The city slowly grows quiet. Windows begin to darken one by one. Conversations fade into the distance. The endless movement of the day finally slows down. And somewhere beneath the calm darkness of the sky, countless lives close another chapter of effort. Another day has been survived. Another day has been faced with courage that the world may never notice. For many people, success is easy to recognize. It shines brightly. It speaks loudly. It attracts attention. But endurance is quiet. Endurance does not ask to be admired. It simply exists within the people who refuse to stop moving forward. And sometimes, the most powerful lives are not the ones that rise quickly to the top. Sometimes the most powerful lives are the ones that continue walking despite the weight they carry. Because living with poverty requires something rare. It requires patience that lasts longer than comfort. It requires resilience that survives repeated disappointment. It requires faith in tomorrow, even when today feels uncertain. These qualities rarely become famous, but they shape the strongest human spirits. Morning will come again. The sun will rise once more, just as it always does. And somewhere, someone will wake up in a small room with tired walls and quiet thoughts. The same question will return. How will today be survived? And once again, the answer will appear in the same simple form. Step by step, effort by effort, day by day. Because the truth about life is this: strength is not only found in victory. Strength is found in persistence. Strength is found in those who continue trying long after others would have stopped. Strength is found in those who refuse to let hardship erase their dignity. And somewhere along that long road of endurance, something meaningful quietly grows. Wisdom, understanding, compassion for others who walk difficult paths, the realization that every life carries invisible struggles, the realization that every person deserves to be seen with kindness. Because poverty is not a sign of weakness. It is often the result of circumstances that few truly understand. Yet within those circumstances, many people continue living with honesty, courage, and quiet determination. And that quiet determination is something the world should never overlook. Perhaps the greatest stories in life are not the stories of wealth or fame. Perhaps the greatest stories are the stories of those who continue walking through hardship without losing their humanity. Those who remain kind even when life is difficult. Those who continue hoping even when hope feels fragile. Those who endure. Because in the end, the bitterness of being poor may shape a life filled with struggle, but it can also reveal the quiet strength of the human spirit. A strength that cannot easily be broken. A strength that continues rising with every new morning. And that strength is what keeps the story